This video will contain spoilers. End review, Broken Age. Um, I am going to sound like the world's biggest child when I say some of the things that I'm going to say in this review. I'm aware of that, but might as well, you know. I discovered this game through a YouTuber that I used to watch who went by the name Stampy. If you're around my age, then you will have heard of him because he was one of the biggest Minecraft YouTubers. To be clear, even back then, I fucking hated him. I don't know why I watched him, but I did. And I watched the first part of Broken Age, and then because I get bored, or I mean, I still kind of do, but I soldier on. But I get bored really easily, so I just skipped to the last video, which was the end of Act One. He either didn't play Act Two, took a big break between Acts One and Two, or the developers had a break between One and Two. I'm not sure which one. So I knew that the way that Act One ended was that basically Shay and Vela swap places, and eventually, I did want to kind of play the game for myself, and I saw it was on sale when I got paid last month for only like £2. So I decided, fuck it, might as well. Um, so the fact that I got it from that prick, that's the first thing that makes me seem like a child. The second thing is the fact that I started off with Vela on Act One, and I got through her story with. I didn't need to use a walkthrough all that much. I think I only used a walkthrough maybe once. But then when I got the Act One of Shay, I was constantly needing to walk free, and I tried to like justify it to myself, like, oh, I went to work, so I don't remember what the last thing I did is, so I need to use the walk free until I get back into the swing of things. But eventually, that just became not true. I was just getting stuck all the time, um, so I'm kind of ashamed of myself for that. I was hoping to get all the trophies, at least all of them, bar the speedrun one, but that's that's not happening. Um, the first one that I didn't get is the one where Shay has to. He thinks he's rescuing like some creatures, and the trophy is that you rescue all of them in one attempt. Like it's kind of like a claw machine thing, and if you mess up, you don't get the trophy. The game has manual save slots, but for most of the game, you can't access the manual save for whatever reason, so I couldn't use it. So missed out on that trophy. Um, and then when it came to Act Two, I started with Shay, and I think I got all the trophies for him. I'm not too sure. And then for Vela, Act Two, I missed a shit ton because they were just not really working out for me. And there were some things that I didn't realize they were connected to trophies. Like one of them was when you have to go into Shay's mum's room, you need to sort of prove that you are Shay. And one of the things she asks you is, um, what what was the size, color, and design of your first space boots? And I had seen the boots. I seen that they looked golden. They didn't look rusted, and I wasn't paying attention to Vela saying, "This is very rusty." So when golden didn't appear, I was like, it's kind of weird. Um, But that's actually not what I got wrong. I got the size wrong. I said they were a size 5, but they were a size 4. I assumed they were a size 5 because it said when you pick up the trophy that Shay first got them when he was 5 years old. And I don't think it said anywhere what the actual size was. So I missed out on that. And then eventually I decided, fuck it, I'm not going to really bother attempting to get the rest. If I get them, I get them. And if I don't, I don't. It's not like I was getting the platinum anyway. I nearly gave up beating the game because there was this puzzle on uh, Shay's part of Act 2 where you have this robot. What you have to do is you have to go into Vela, Act 2, eventually get into the mum's room, and there's this photo that you pick up, and in the background of the photo is a bunch of symbols, and then you need to switch to Shay and match the symbols on this robot. Walkthroughs weren't they were the stepping stones for me solving it, but um I think I found the best solution. None of the walkthroughs that I saw did this. What I did was instead of putting in all 3 wires at once, just put in 1 wire, and then if the symbols don't match up, don't put the wire in those slots. Like say it's a 6 slots, say you put it in 1 and 2, and 1 and 2 don't match up, then put it in 3 and 4, and then if one of the symbols is right but is in the wrong position, do like 4 and 5, and then hopefully that's right, and then just repeat it for the rest until you got it. That makes it so fucking easy. Um, but that puzzle nearly made me just stop playing the game because I'm playing a Tim Schafer game. I'm not playing like fucking. I was thinking in my head last night an example to use for what I'm not playing, but I can't remember what it is. Overall, really good game. Um, I'm not the biggest Tim Schafer fan. I tried playing Psychonauts, but I couldn't get into it. Maybe it's because it's a PS2 game, and I've made my opinion on PS2 games very clear. Who knows? If I think Psychonauts 2 did come out for free, maybe I'll give it a chance. Who knows? Anyway, Wake Up Dead Man, a Knives Out mystery. Universally positive ratings. I watched it in cinema with Ben Man. Daniel Craig, Kylie Spaney. Did not know that was her. Andrew Scott, Mila Kunis, Jeremy Renner, Thomas Hayden Church. I didn't know that was him. Josh Brolin, Glenn Close, Kerry Washington, Josh O'Connor, Jeffrey Wright. Joseph Gordon-Levitt does not appear in the film. When you compare this to Knives Out 2, and then you compare this to Knives Out 1, you can kind of tell that there's a difference between the first Knives Out and this in Glass Onion, because Knives Out felt like just another murder mystery film. Like it's not special, and it knows it's not special. Um, but then with this and Glass Onion, it feels like Rian Johnson has an overinflated ego of himself, and that he's trying to make it seem grander than it is. Um, just a quick reminder of what my opinion on Glass Onion is. The film isn't the best. Like it is kind of bloated. The moral of the story is fuck billionaires, and Ethan Hawke has a cameo at the start of the film where he gives everyone the corona vaccine. Um, the fact that the film released in December 2022, it I get they worked on the film in 2021, but it's just by December 2022, the pandemic was long over, and I don't want to see stuff relating to Corona. Like, a lot of shows had to make the decision of whether or not to to have Corona be a thing in their shows, and I think that Afterlife made the right choice because they didn't do that, because people watching it now don't want to have like fucking Vietnam flashbacks of the pandemic. I mean, Afterlife is bittersweet enough. We don't need that making it even worse. But to move on to Wake Up Dead Man, the film is a lot better than uh, Glass Onion. I Because I was watching this with Ben Man, who has a tendency to predict things correctly all the time. I thought I want to try and get something, and I did get something, but not for like a smart reason. I suspected that Jeremy Renner was involved because when he is first in the bar, he's drinking whiskey and he has the bottle with him. And because of the camera angle and the way that the bottle is positioned, you don't see the full name of that brand of whiskey. All you see is it starts with Hell, or at least it looks like it starts with Hell. I'm not too sure. And because of that and the whole Christian theme of it, I thought maybe that's Rand trying to subtly say he's the devil. He's the one that killed. I don't remember what the Josh Brolin's title is. I'm just going to call him the priest. I wasn't right about that, but he was an accomplice, so I'll take the win. Um, Trying to think what else there is to say. And initially, it did seem like Ryan made this film just to sort of shit on Christianity and just be like an atheist wet dream. Oh, look at this gay hero who has been persecuted by Christians for however many years, um, being better than the Christians by solving the murder and whatever. I don't exactly know what I don't know what I think they were thinking, but you get the point. And by the end of the film, excuse my stomach. By the end of the film, I was thinking, okay, I'm wrong. That's not the whole point, because if that were the point, then I don't think the end would have played out the way that it did with Josh O'Connor forgiving Glenn Close. Um, Although that whole thing did seem kind of with like the diamond not letting anyone get their hands on it. It did seem a bit anti-capitalist because you know the money doesn't corrupt like as immediately and as intensely as you think it does. Like they could just sell the diamond and put that money into charity. That's a much better use than having it stored in the cross. And I do get that he did that so that Josh's son doesn't find it. But it's just the priest from the very start should have done that. I I know there was the whole thing of Callie was looking for the inheritance and all that, but it it doesn't seem like it's continuity breaking or anything like that to have him sell off the diamond, um, donate it to charity or something like that. and then lie to Callie about him having the inheritance, it still makes sense. Speaking of things that don't make sense, Binman pointed out to me that the groundskeeper Samson died at a point in the film, but then you see him later on in the film. I think I'm not exactly sure what it was. I can't remember, but he pointed out to me that he died, and then later on, excuse me, later on in the film, Josh goes to hit the bags in Samson's garage. And now that I'm thinking about it out loud, and I'm saying all this, I realise that scene actually takes place before. But I don't blame the man for thinking that it takes place after, because with how long the film is, it does kind of, all the scenes kind of, you kind of forget when each scene happens in the film. Like the structuring of it is just all jumbled up in your head. The film acts like it's the final Knives Out film, but yeah, it's the end of the trilogy. But from like a story in universe perspective, it doesn't make sense, because Benoit never announced he was retiring in Glass Onion, and he never announced he was retiring in this film, but he does act like this is his final case. And just with the cinematography, which is beautiful by the way, but it's just, it does make it seem like this is the end. Um, and now that I remember that, something I noticed in the film is the weather will change constantly. Like, 1 minute, um, the sun will be shining, and then the next there's clouds covering the sun, and that happens all the time in real life. I don't think I've ever noticed that happen in a film, and I assume that when that does happen in most films, they just edit it, or they reshoot the scene or something like that just for continuity's sake. And it's not breaking continuity technically, because it's happening all in the same shot. But it's something I noticed, and I do want to applaud Ryan for the realism aspect of it. In between Glass Onion and now, I've learned a lot about Rian Johnson just through watching YouTube videos about like why The Last Jedi failed and stuff like that. And something I learned was that Ryan believes in shocking the audience. That's like why he always likes having a twist in his films. And when it came to Star Wars, he took priority. Like he gave priority to shocking the audience over making a story that makes sense. That's why Luke tries to kill Ben in Last Jedi, because it doesn't make sense for Luke's character to do that. But Ryan wanted to shock the audience, and it does seem like there's bits of that seeping into this as well, because there's so many uh, twists at the end. Because it's like Benoit says, "Oh, I don't know who the killer is. Like, I can't solve this case." And he did that just so that everyone else would fuck off, so that it's just him, Josh, Mila Kunis, the sheriff. I think she's the sheriff, and Glenn Close, who is the killer. Speaking of Mila, just for a small sidetrack, while I was watching the film, I thought, is that her? I don't know. She looks a bit old, and I'll admit I haven't really seen her in anything in a long time. Like, I don't watch. I mean, Family Guy's animated. The last thing I can think of that she did that was live action was The Spy Who Dumped Me, but I never actually watched that film. I just seen like the trailer and stuff, and that was what, 7 years ago. So yeah, it kind of makes sense, but at the same time, she's only 42, so it's kind of weird. But getting back on point, He does that just so that Glenn would be on her own and that she can confess that she's the killer instead of having Benoit just point it out and shaming her and all that. And it's just twist after twist after twist. And I'm not talking about a plot twist. I'm talking, well, technically it is a plot twist, but it's just imagine a film where um the detective says the killer is person A, and then he's like, "Ha, that was a decoy. The killer's actually person B, and I did all that because I needed to see person B's reaction to tell whether or not he is the killer. That's actually another decoy. The killer is person three for the exact same reason, and that's another decoy. The killer is actually person D for the exact same reason. That's what this film feels like. It's more complicated than that, but that's the simplest way I can put it. Overall, it's a good film. It's definitely better than Glass Onion. Whether or not it's better than the first film, I'm not going to say. I can't make up my mind, and I'm just not going to bother thinking about it because Knives Out 1 is so different from this. The It's like trying to compare. I shouldn't have tried to do like a simile. You get the point. They're too different to compare. Um, it's just the I think the biggest problem in the film is the fact that it acts like it's the end of the series when, from a story perspective, it just isn't. And if this film is successful, let's be honest, they're making Knives Out 4.